Cool.
So they should be able to see that.
Yep. Cool. All right.
Can we
Started.
get confirmation
Can
that
any-
you can hear us though?
Yeah. She just walked away. Can someone give me confirmation that you can hear me? Yes.
I can hear you
Love it. Thank you very much.
loud and clear.
Love it. If I'm too loud, tell me, I'll back up or figure out a different way of doing this.
No, you're good. You're good.
Perfect. And you guys can see my screen as well.
Yes.
Cool. Well, we'll short one person in here that just came in and left, but we'll get started. And yeah, we'll get started. I don't anticipate using the full 2 hours, but it'll be close with whatever. We got a speaker coming at the end, so he'll give his little spiel and when I'm done, and then we'll have our break for the next one. So to get started, my name is Antonio Romanelli. I am a part of the Romanelli group here at KW Excel. Our team is currently made up of our team leader, Christina, who's actually my older sister, our transaction coordinator and administrator, which is also my other sister, Jessica, who's with us on Zoom, and then myself. So 2 agents and an admin. Looking for some growth here soon, but that's who we are now. So I'm going to do session 16, which is working with buyers and sellers. I'm going to do my best to go off your guide as well as just throw in whatever I have to offer, which hopefully is of value to everybody here. Also, disclaimer, I have the participant guide, the speaker guide, and the slideshow. So if I'm moving papers around, I apologize. But here we go. Cool. So, can't see that now, can you? I'll put this over here. We'll see how this goes. Oh, I love that. Okay. So obviously, again, session 16, we've gone over tons and tons of good value for agents, for really anybody in the industry. But today we're going to move forward with the Transact series. We've covered, as you can see here on 14 and 15, winning the buyer and seller. And now we're going to move through. This is more specifically from gaining a listing or a buyer. So basically from signing on of them to writing offers or receiving offers. So this is going to be a lot of the, showings. It's going to be managing a listing with showings and offers, things like that. But it's right before, it's kind of this middle ground. I made a joke earlier today that this is the ground where this could take 3 hours if you have a buyer that goes out and sees a house and offers immediately and it works out. Or right now, as everybody knows, this could take 6 months or, a year. So we're going to go through all of that. And please, at any point, unmute, ask me a question. You guys in here, ask me whatever you got. And we'll make this good. All right. So this is our agenda for the day. As you can see, keep thinking this doesn't show correctly. We're going to start with success with clients overall. We're going to go buyers specifically after that, sellers, co-op agents, and then obviously the AHAs and our success system. And that'll lead us into Christina, my oldest sister and team leader, teaching later today about making and receiving offers. So at the end of the session, the idea here is to be able to identify key information to build success with buyers and sellers, which is the whole thing we're going to go over. Employ strategies to assist buyers and sellers with decision-making. The decision-making part is a huge part of this specific course and being fiduciaries for our clients. And third, build a strong success foundation relationship with their clients and co-op agents. To start thinking about what you learned today, let's consider some questions we might ask. What do you guys think? Just very briefly, anybody online or here, we're going to go over it on the next slide so you'll see it. But what do you guys think is important with buyers and sellers? Obviously, we'll start with just like communication, standards, things like that. Is there anything else you guys have experienced that makes working with buyers and sellers easier? Like if you were to get out in front of it rather than kind of maybe backtrack on your words. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys heard, but she said setting expectations. I will probably say that phrase like 1,000 times over the next hour because I've been in the industry personally just under a year. And I think the first 2 months was probably the biggest learning curve of I need to be, brutally honest and just tell everybody how it is at the beginning, because if you sugarcoat at the beginning and go back on your word a month later, it doesn't work out. So really close to this setting expectations part of the job. And we'll kind of go over that here soon. So a quote from the MREA, if you guys have read it, virtually every top producing agent we have ever worked with has a deep and almost inherent sense of service. They have a servant's heart and place their buyers or sellers' real estate experience above all else. They are always thinking service. So I will jump onto this. A little bit of background, was in commercial real estate with Huntington Bank prior to going solo as an agent. So I had the scare, if you want to call it. I wasn't really that scared, but scared of going from, a consistent paycheck to not a consistent paycheck. And I think this last slide really, for me, this was really nice to think, because I needed to get out of my head. I need to worry about paying my mortgage and my funds. It was be of good service to clients and just let everything take care of itself. Because if you start thinking ahead of closings and things like that, they're never going to happen. So being of service is of utmost importance for sure. So we're going to start with success with clients. The point in the transaction we're focusing on today is the time between getting a buyer signed or listing agreement signed, all the way up to, writing offers for buyers or receiving offers for sellers. So as I said before, this could be hours, this could be 6 months. So it's kind of fitting all of it in, and managing the expectations throughout that time. That's really important. So first topic is with clients, and then we'll specify. See, I don't think I control that, but thank you very much for telling me that. I'm pretty sure that is not. Give me 1 second. I got people trying to get in. Yeah, I think, did he just leave? I think they're added on Synergy side. Okay. Do you want to let Carrie know, actually, if you don't mind? Thank you very much. Sorry about that, everybody. Fairly certain. Okay. I'm going to roll with it and we'll see what happens. Sorry. So we're going to cover again, both buyers, sellers, co-op agents, all that. And we'll just dive in here. So let's start. I didn't even touch anything. Cool. Okay. So great agent client communication. Number one, provide strong foundation for sustaining a long-term relationship. It sets and manages expectations proactively throughout the transaction, creates peace of mind, and enhances your credibility. One thing I do want to throw in here is it's not always about this specific transaction. A lot of the time it is. It's very important. But in this industry, obviously referrals and past clients and all the referrals you can get, all the business you can do with the same people is all very important. So even though your brain might think this is a 30-day deal or a 6-month deal, on average, everybody moves every 8 years. So you hopefully, if you do this correct, you'll get somebody back again. So obviously with KW, we have a lot of ability to do this. Do I need Adam on my side?
See if there's people that are trying to get in.
I don't believe so.
We just had a phone call.
Sorry,
So-
everybody.
I'm just checking to see if there's people trying to get in. I don't see anybody on the wait
Somebody
list.
just pop up, say someone's trying to join.
Well,
Yeah, I was gonna say. No.
Well, since we have host privileges, we might, but Lydia is logged in, so.
Okay.
We'll see.
Well, if people pop up, I will be sure to let them in. Where was I at? I'm sorry. Okay. So one thing in this industry, and I'm glad this is here, is it's important to recognize that you can really over communicate with clients in this business. I will say there's probably a little asterisk there. There's certain people you'll be able to tell pretty quickly that bombarding them is not the best way to go about it. But I do agree with, in terms of just adding value and telling them in this process, hey, here's what's going on. Again, expectations, you really can't go wrong. It's only going to help, especially when push comes to shove, maybe in a tight situation with your clients. You're like, hey, this is what I kind of prepared you for, and this is what's happening now. Obviously makes it look like you know what you're doing as well. So before she came in with KW, Command is going to help that a lot. The KW app, anything like that, because you can set up consistent communication. And again, if it's a 6-month process with a buyer, you can do market updates throughout it. Are things changing, interest rates, all that kind of stuff. So we have that ability that not everybody has. So moving forward, there's 3 levels of service: purpose, value proposition, and fiduciary. This is in addition to the 4 underlying ideas that I just mentioned. So here's kind of how they're defined. So purpose: masters of service have a clear understanding of why they should be hired and can articulate it to anyone at any time. Great service begins with a clear purpose for why someone should work with you. Number 2, value proposition. The best agents can translate their purpose and why people should hire them into a specific set of services they will provide. And number 3, fiduciary, which we will go over after this as well. Highly productive agents provide a level of service based on their commitment to act as a fiduciary for their clients. They place their clients' interest above all others, even their own. A fiduciary brings a level of care and trust to a relationship that a functional agent does not. I have a really weird analogy for fiduciary. I always think it's like parents to a small child. Most parents do, I would say most good parents do what's best for their kid, regardless of, if they don't want to take their kid to soccer practice, but they do it. And I say a functional agent or someone, that type of relationship is more like the aunt and uncle. You're there, to have a good time. And then when they start crying, you hand them back over to the person who's in charge. Maybe a weird analogy there, but kind of how I think about it. So yeah, we're going to go over this a little bit. So functionary versus fiduciary, I'm sure most of you know, but let's dig a little bit deeper. So this is in the MRE. Well, this is kind of everywhere, to be honest, but when you operate as a fiduciary for your clients, you earn the right to be their expert of choice. Do any of you guys remember the difference between fiduciary and functionary in terms of, I don't know, like not by definition, but roughly by definition, what the difference is? If not, it's okay.
Functionary is a minimal effort in anything. You're doing it, but you don't really have too much to give a crud.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Fiduciary, we take it personally, went back to taking care of these people, doing the right thing. So it's more than just looking at their finances. It's making sure that it fits their lifestyle. It's making sure that it fits their school system.
Right.
It's making sure that it does fit in their budget so that we don't greedily take them to a place
They don't want to be.
that they can't live comfortably for long.
For sure.
Because you hit it earlier on, is that this is not a single transaction game. So we're hoping, whether it's that same family,
Mhm.
8 years from now, 10 years from now, 3 years from now.
Right.
Or that we did such a caring good job that anybody they ever hear or talk to that's going to buy or sell, they say, oh my goodness, I got this person.
Yeah, for sure. So that's one thing, is if you are, like you said, a good fiduciary, one that always is doing the best. Hopefully referrals and future business comes of it. With functionaries, you hit it on the head, and there's a little bit I'll add. A functionary is thought of as more of a specific task type person. So you can also think of a transaction coordinator in a way, right? Because it's more of, I have these steps to do that are very important. They still act in the best interest of the clients, but it's more so, fiduciary is more kind of I don't want to say higher level. I'll say more like overarching. It's the whole entire thing. Whereas functionary kind of comes in at a certain time, still is doing best for their clients, but it's just there kind of for a specific amount of time. Whereas fiduciaries, like you said, they close, we're still around. They still have our number. If they need a plumber, they're probably going to call us, unless their dad is one or something. The MREA, and there's a chart, I think, in your guide that has kind of this whole difference. And actually, I have not been moving forward with this at all, so that's good. Okay, so dual agency, jump hoops a little bit. This is legal here. This is illegal in many other states. I'm sure you guys know what dual agency is. If not, here you go. It's when an agent represents both the buyer and the seller. And I'll go over some things here that everyone kind of needs to be aware of. Remember your fiduciary commitment to your client. There's a really interesting analogy that I've heard and wrote down here that I'm going to share. Obviously, we all kind of know that, if I'm representing a buyer and I need to do my best by them, whether that's a good price, negotiate terms, old HVAC, we got to figure that out. Well, if I represent the seller, how do I tell the seller, oh no, we're just going to tell the buyer that everything's in working order? Not just going to tell, but tell them, yes, it is older, but it still works. And how can you realistically do both? So one thing that they talk about here is, again, legal, illegal in certain states. You can do it here in Ohio. Being a fiduciary relationship with your client means making all decisions based on their best interests. This is challenging when you're working with two parties with competing interests. Will your buyer expect that you're telling them everything about a house, even items that may not be required to be disclosed? Will your seller expect that the offer you are making on behalf of your buyers is of best interest of the sellers because you're representing both? It can be very difficult. So the analogy I wrote down, I apologize, is, oh, yeah, sorry. Would you ever go to court against someone who is using the same attorney as you? Right? I mean, like when you think about it that way, and maybe it's a little bit of an example, but, or a little bit of a stretch, but it's the same, truthfully, right? I mean, your attorney knows things about you, but they're fighting against you and for you. It's like, who do you trust? Well, they could be a great person and maybe they'll do a great job, but it's a little sticky. I think overall for newer agents, this is, I don't want to say frowned upon, it's just sticky. You need to be very careful. Talk to team leaders if you're on a team. Talk to anybody in your office. If you're a solo agent, doesn't matter. Even if you're an experienced agent, these can still be extremely sticky situations. And yeah, it can be good. I mean, I've done some that are great, and then you kind of get involved with ones where I'm like, I'll call another agent and they can represent the seller and I'll represent the buyer, and let's just do it that way. So again, it can be good, can be a little sticky. Which of our Y4C2Ts apply to not representing both sides, do you think? So I'll say it again. Which apply to not representing both sides. So basically, if you were to just represent one and someone else represent the other, which ones, if you guys know them, do these fall under? They're kind of easy once you think about it. I don't even know if they're there, but anybody? I'll give you a hint. When I say hint, I'll give you the answer. It is win-win and trust. So if you think about it like that, right? I mean, the best way to create a win-win is probably to have someone represent each side. Again, truthfully, that way both sides can be represented to their full ability. And trust obviously kind of goes without saying, right? You're going to be a little more trusted. If you know you're able to provide that and say, hey, it's not best that I do both. So
would that kind of, not to interrupt, would that kind of fall back on our fiduciary?
Yeah, exactly.
Fiduciary is kind of all encompassing. Whether we're representing the buyer, the seller, or both. And sometimes you're going to get, I mean, we're going to know when we're in those people, if we're good communicators, we're going to know, are they comfortable with the fact that I'm selling their house, I'm the agent on listing agent, and oh, by the way, I got a buyer. I think if we follow the rules of fiduciary, you know, the whole thing, we can do it, but in most cases, most of us, you know, or those of us in a team
have other options.
Take another option, and that way we can each represent them, even though we still have the same information internally. You give them a little more warm and fuzzy that they got a different face.
For sure. And part of this is you can kind of make this part of your value proposition. Like if you sit down with buyers, is I'm going to represent you and you only, and I'm the one who's looking out for your best interest, and almost promise that, you're not going to be doing dual agent type situation or putting them, it's not that you're putting them in harm's way, but kind of, if the wrong situation presents itself, you can be. So yeah, fiduciary, if you go back to that, it's always, are you truly doing the right thing for both parties? And I think the correct answer is it's very, very tight. It's very close. Like you might be, but there's going to be instances where it's hard to do. So, yeah. And that's, I think, why dual agency is backed up by fiduciary, or comes right after fiduciary in this presentation for the same reason. So, this is kind of the caveat, I think, of the whole entire presentation. Amanda said this is kind of the most important part of this series 16 or session 16, but as well as just working with clients in general. So we talked about the 3 levels of service, revisited fiduciary relationships, dual agency, those kinds of things. You could see those are the what of being a great agent. Now we can talk about how to be a great agent. it's your job. And for a lot of us, it's our passion as well. If your clients, this is something they have never done. Again, if they've bought and sold before, most likely they did it 8 years ago or something to that effect. So even though they're going to do it 4 times in their lifetime, you're going to do this, 4 times in a month or whatever that may be. So you're going to be the expert and you have to set those expectations. I was going to share we're going to go over several slides about this. So I have some other thoughts on things that my sister and I do. But so you're going to demonstrate your expertise by educating your client on the realities of the market. We're also in this little small shift right now. So it's extremely important right now to be on top of it. And to do this, you need to set expectations for the process and for communication. I think process and communication, again, what we're going to do here is where expectations really come into play. So a key component of educating your clients is to review the entire process. You've likely touched on it during a buyer consultation or listing presentation. It's true for almost everything in our lives. If I lay out a whole process, it doesn't even have to be about buying a house. It could be about building IKEA furniture. If I read you every single step right now and then I leave, are you going to remember the 12th, 13th, 14th step? Maybe not, right? So a lot of this is review it. And I do this in buyer consultations. I will go over everything, but I start with, I'm going to go over everything. But when you're really going to learn this is as we move along in this process. I want you to be familiar with the process. I want you to kind of know buzzwords when I say appraisal, when I say appraisal waiver, whatever, those kinds of things. I want you to know it. But you don't need to know the definition of everything the day we leave the buyer consultation. I just want you to be aware. That's kind of my IKEA furniture thing is I leave you to do 3 or 4 steps. I come back, we can do 5, 6, and 7, things like that. So yeah, and this is obviously all of the steps. Yeah, there you go. I can read them to you, but I think you guys can read. So let's start with the next. Some of these buttons on this thing don't work. Okay. Set time expectations. So for example, if you told a buyer they need to get out to see properties the same day they hit the market, because the market has been the way it is, you need to set that expectation. It's very important that you do, because, if it goes live on a Friday and it's Sunday and they want to see it, you don't want to call them and say, hey, there's 12 offers. This is what we need to do. You'd rather say, hey, the second you see it and the second you like it, call me. Let's do this. Let's go see it immediately. Now, as things seem to be on the market just a little bit longer, it's still very important. It's not that things are sitting around for 60 days, but still very important. But still, the expectation of you need to be clear with me when you see something you like in the MLS search, or as well as I always say, once I've shown you a couple houses, I'm going to take my notes on what I notice you like. When you walk around and say, I love this or I love that, I'm going to take note of that. And if I see a house that I think checks most of the boxes you said, whether you sent it to me or not, I'm probably going to share it with you again and just be like, hey, based on what you said, I think you're really going to like this. We should go see it, at your earliest convenience. Yeah.
I think also set time expectations also in regards to how you set expectations with your clients about when you're available.
Mhm.
When I got into business, everyone said, when they say jump, don't jump. I slightly disagree. I'm going to jump, and that's how I've kept business. But also at the same time, if you have a full weekend and they're like, well, I need to get this now, and they feel like you're not getting them in there fast enough, having a system behind you set to get another agent out there for you, or at least be like, hey, I know that I can't get you in at this time, but I can get you in at this time, and we won't be missing any deadlines, things like that. So I think it's about also telling them how to treat you so that they're not disappointed when all of a sudden you can't get in 10 minutes.
Yes.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. So there's an example in here that some agents say like 8 to 8, they don't respond from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. I will say personally that I don't set an expectation based on, I don't say a time period. I don't say 8 to 8 personally. Although, and I'll get into this in the next couple of slides based on what Christina said, as well as if you have things coming up in your life. For example, my fiance's bridal shower was Sunday. Geez. And I had a client who basically I knew they were going to want to see things on Sunday. And I told them Wednesday, I was like, listen, I have something from 12 to 3 that I just cannot miss. I can maybe get my sister to cover or something like that, but I can't do from 12 to 3, just like you can't do 9 to 5. You know what I mean? So setting that, being realistic, and also just being like, just be humble about it. Hey, I have something going on in my personal life. You know, again, if I need to get another agent to cover, I will. But I cannot do this time. So that's important. So one thing about listing clients that are in here, for most people, it's very rare to have to make such big decisions in such a short period. I think we get very numb to the fact that people are making large decisions within 12 hours of receiving an offer, or 24 hours, whatever it is. Whereas these clients, again, like I said, maybe they buy 4 or 5 houses in their life. And that means over 40 hours of their life, they're going to make 4 huge decisions roughly. So it's important to, again, set expectations, say, hey, you know, if it's a listing in this market, we're going to get offers. The ones that we do get are probably going to be or require a decent turnaround. We can set the expectation of, hey, do you want to push it through the weekend? Whatever. There's other things you can do, but as long as you're setting what's best for your client and that works for you guys, that's just most important, because you don't want to have an offer come in and say, hey, we need to respond in, 6 hours. And they're like, well, I don't want to. If you can at least prepare for, hey, we might have tight turnarounds. Please keep your phone handy. I'm going to have my phone handy for when you call me. If you could do the same for me, that would be great. And I think a lot of this is just being honest at the beginning. Like I had a buyer consultation this weekend and I said, hey, I'm going to have my phone ready. When you see a house you like and you send it to me, I'm going to see it immediately. I would ask the same to you. If I have questions for you, or if I send you a house, I'd like you to at least, not that you have to respond in a minute. That's not the point, but just be timely, because it's in both of our best interests to be timely, especially in this market as a buyer. So, and there you go. This is all the other pieces. So, you likely need to go over a contract before even, it depends which kind of buyers you have. But for buyers who haven't done it in a while or first time, you might go over the contract with your buyers before showings, start to, again, familiarize themselves with the steps, with the pieces in the contract, so that when you're showing them that third, fourth house, and you start talking about an inspection or how you're going to negotiate terms, they're not surprised by anything you're talking about or re-asking you for the details. And if they do, obviously you can respond. But if you set the expectations earlier, show them the contract, they'll be a lot more familiar with what they're getting into. In addition to the contract, what else, obviously, do you guys think we should? And again, this isn't really go over beginning to end. It's more, hey, this is going to be coming. Hey, this is what happens in every deal. I'll give you on the RPD, right? I'm going to check
the market right now. It's been important too. I mean, I'm a newbie in the industry, but it's been very helpful for me is that I explain just shy of condescendingly over and over and over at different points through, whether it's on the phone or looking at places, timeline. So what, we're seeing something change right now, but we've still had, our team still has some houses like this. Typically you're seeing them go coming soon Wednesday, Thursday, Friday live, and in contract by Sunday night or Monday. So I try to explain that this is what is trending. The market is shifting. Some things are on there maybe 14 days, but if it's a hot property, they're moving so that, and I like to see their eyes. Here's what we can expect, whether they have a house they love or we're just talking for the first time. Then I start reiterating that, and then through the process, I keep repeating. And it's also re-educating myself. I talk about appraisal gaps. I talk about inspections. I always recommend inspections, but the market right now is not demanding remediation on cosmetics. Major things, that's a whole different story. But for this wall needs repainted or fixed, or this, or the floor is crappy or whatever, and I try to explain it multiple times throughout the process. And it all kind of keeps going back to setting the expectation. That way, like you said, you can tell somebody, all right, we're going to do this. We're planning on, you need to be out of your place by here. You need to be in here by here.
Yep.
So that reverse planning. But if you keep explaining it.
I think what you're saying is that if you set expectations now, the likelihood of deals staying together is much higher. If you don't explain every step of the way and what's going to occur, the chances of that deal remaining together is not, I mean, it's.
And I repeat it multiple times. I mean, so that we're all on the same sheet of music, because you do get to a point where somebody's like, oh, I didn't remember that, or, oh, that's what that means.
Yeah.
And especially for me, learning this industry more, I've done sales for years, but learning this industry and the nuances, it helps reassure,
Yeah.
I'm learning myself or embedding it in my brain. These are things you need to talk about. Now it's a moving target, our market's shifting. So there's other things we need to talk about,
For sure.
but still, if we keep that, it goes back to communication.
I have a question for everybody. So I do, for set document expectations, I do the buyer consult, but I do not do the contract at the buyer consult. Does anybody do handle that differently?
We have like all the papers with us and just from other act with them like agency disclosure, the contract, obviously consider guide, and we go over it. We don't go into like super detailed contract, but we give them it and talk about it a little bit just so that they're familiar with it. We help them decide it, then it's not like, oh, and then they have a bunch of
Okay.
So you briefly go over the purchase agreement?
yeah.
See, I do that, I like have two appointments basically.
I want to make sure everybody online heard. I think,
No, but it's interesting to hear because everyone does it differently.
Yeah.
I think just so everybody heard, I personally do not have the purchase contract with me when I do buyer consultations. Like my sister said, I do kind of the overarching, kind of let them.
Inspections and appraisal.
Oh yeah, I mean, I go over inspection, exactly. But I leave that out, but I guess now that I'm hearing it too, it's not a bad idea. Just highlight the kind of big items and just, hey, this is what every house you're gonna look at. This is how you're gonna get it, or these 14 pages. So familiarize with it, but yeah, it's a good idea. And then as a part of this, setting expectations for documents specifically, with listings, everything needs to be filled out correctly, all that kind of stuff, because it just leads to potential issues down the line if not done correctly. So, and then one other thing in here, which I think for buyers is extremely helpful, is every offer you make, again, whether there's 14 on it in the last couple months, like normal, or you're the only one, doesn't really matter. Setting the expectations of what happens if they accept, what happens if they reject, what happens if they counter. I do that almost every single offer. Well, actually, I would say I think I do it every single time. And I think it's really valuable because, again, if they come back with a counter, your client's not like, wait, what? They want this instead. I'm like, no, there's three options. They sign this and we're good the exact way we wrote it. They reject it. They either take somebody else or they just don't want this one, or they're going to ask us to change a couple things and we can decide, if those are changes we're willing to make. So.
Can I ask you this? For the set document expectations, are you going into listing appointments with everything ready, or are you doing two appointments, like a pre-list and then going back when you look at comps one?
I will probably take everything with me just in case. And, like I've got one on Thursday, I'll take everything just in case. They say, oh, we might want to talk to other people who might not want to. But if you're competing against someone else, and they get to that top of that hill where it's like, oh, I think you're comfortable to do. I don't want to have to go back.
You don't want to not have it.
I don't want to not have it. So I want to have it with me. I'm not that, if Michael B can do this, like when we first got real estate, it's like, there was one page here, so that's real hard to sign. And that's what Michael B was saying, that's real hard to sign. Like, I'm not that way. I'm not aggressive because I don't subscribe to that. If someone's aggressive with me, that's like, but yeah, I take everything. And there's a lot of times I'll go and I'll just bring it all back because they want me to do it or they're going to wait, but they have it with you.
Do you leave it there? If they don't sign, do you leave it?
It depends on the situation.
Yeah.
If they think they're going to do something, I'll say, well, just, fill out the agency disclosure and I can email you the best. But again, it really depends on how far, if you work with them
Yeah, but you can tell, yeah.
If I work with them before, oh, Joe, we need another week to do this. I got some people that are in Arlington, oh, we're gonna, gotta have a baby. Since do the baby, you get the. I'm actually having it tomorrow. But it's one of those things where it's like, I think to have it is good.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Geisler, he was a Camp Taylor. He said, when you meet with someone for the first time, you know, you show home, you have everything you freaking need all the way down to water bottles.
Yeah, so
Once they write the contract, you know, get their MLS book out of their hand, which was a tablet.
Deactivate.
Well, no, you were right. You were right, deactivate, because you don't want to write something and in the process of negotiating request for remedy or something like Antonio said, you know, you're buying an as is, you don't want them to think, oh, you know, so you try and do all those things. So I at least take it.
yeah, I think for me, I mean, again, like you said, every listing appointment truly is a little different.
Yeah.
I have the folder with all basically trailing docs, listing, everything. And then when I like go over the listing presentation, when I open the folder, I tell them what's in each pocket. Like the right side of this is the listing presentation. We're going to go over that together. This is how I'm going to sell your house, etc. The left side is, you know, if you guys want to move forward with me today, that's what, you know, I have this with you. So yeah. So, but I mean, I say it like, because I think people are naturally intimidated. I mean, when I sit there and go like this and open it, and it's not that it's super thick, but there's some papers in there. I literally am like, this is if we want to move forward. Because I think it kind of takes an edge off a little bit of like, well, what's in that left hand pocket? Because we haven't talked about that yet. So yeah, all good stuff. Everyone kind of
Yeah.
Right.
You're pointing
Yeah.
DNA.
So this one is really specific about communication itself. This is where the 8 to 8 is kind of mentioned. I think the biggest thing here is find out how your clients prefer to be communicated with. I mean, that's it. Because like personally for me, text is easiest. I have my phone with me almost all the time. Text is it's the easiest thing for me to do. No problem emailing, whatever. But some people aren't that way, right? Some people, I mean, I have clients who just pick up the phone every single time. If I shoot them a text like an update, hey, appraisal's in, or whatever it may be, they call me immediately because they don't want to text. So I also in the buyer's consultations, or in both, but we'll say, hey, how do you prefer to communicate? Is text okay? Do you want me to call you? Do you want me to email you? What's easiest? And then just, I kind of morph to whatever they need, honestly.
I leave it, and maybe it's just because I'm new and I guess I've been this way my entire business career, but I leave, you know, communication, inbound communication open to 24/7. Unless, and I will tell somebody, so I'll set expectations if, you know, like next week I'm going on vacation with family. But I can't tell you how many times in my past that I've because I will still answer it. It might not be for 2 hours, 3 hours, but I've closed deals from other countries. So, or kept it rolling by answering when I could, but they knew I was gone, but I'm like, you know what, send it to me, and to where I say, I'll forward it. Like if I'm out of town, I'll say, Colin,
Yeah.
go do this, but I will communicate back with them and I'll say, hey, I got Colin's going to show you this house, or he's going to take you here, or he's going to do this. But I want to be in the loop.
Yeah.
Now I might be crazy. Somebody might say, well, you're leaving your door open but I'm like, I personally think is that this is probably the biggest, you know, and other than gazillionaires, it's even for them. This is the largest expense of somebody's life.
I think that once you're in it for longer, you, like I said, you jump when you have to jump, but then you start to learn like there's where you don't have to jump. Because for your own mental health, like you're gonna go crazy. So yes, and when people tell, like when I got first business, like, will you tell them when you're working? I'm not gonna do that because that's what got me business in the first place, because I was other people working. But then at year 7, when someone took me to 11 o'clock, I was like, what do you think about this house? I'm not responding because there's no need. So I think that there comes a healthy balance, you know, like when she's hitting the fan, you're gonna respond at 11 o'clock. I mean, you know, when your buyer is crying or your client's crying on the phone, you're gonna take the phone call. But like, if it really is mundane, it doesn't matter, then you're kind of like, they will get a phone call first thing at 9 a.m. and they will feel the love and them being taken care of at 9 a.m. at the same level they would have felt at 11 o'clock when they reached out, you know? So I think it becomes this like,
I think,
you figure it out.
and a lot of it is like, I mean, for the example of vacation, It's, hey, I'm going to check my email once a day from 9 to 9:30 and that's it. Like, that's just how I'm going to respond to things. I'm going to see them at least within 24 hours of sending them. Or part of the value proposition, like you said, using Colin or me with Christina, like, yeah, I'm out of town, but I've got somebody, they probably won't be at your beck and call 24 hours of the day. But if there's something that you need, we'll be able to do it.
That's
And then-
so right now, if you look at the market, certain things.
So it's all a car.
And being able to do it.
Both, like, depending on your client.
Yeah. Well, and it's the other way too. It's, hey, what does the seller need? Or how does the buyer need to communicate? Are they busy from 6 to 8 because they have a soccer practice? Or, you know what I'm saying? So.
You just treat everybody different. I used to have, when the market gets a little bit normal, and the seller's house isn't sold, they call you. And it would give me anxiety because sometimes you don't have anything to say. So how I control that anxiety is I know you were gonna be calling me every Tuesday and Thursday. Instead of waiting on the call, I'd call you before you. So then sometimes you have to be better at their game.
Yeah.
And you gotta be better at their game, like, oh, they're gonna call and want to know this, that, and you call them. And all of a sudden, it's like, then for me, it became, the conversations weren't. I told you out. I have a house.
They weren't defensive, they were all.
Right now.
They were not reacting.
Yeah, you're just like, I'm reacting to everything, but then when you're proactive, then it's like a little bit, but I agree with what Antonio and Christina both said, it really depends on the client. Some people, yeah, it's like, they're gonna be high maintenance, and so you just prepare yourself for high maintenance, and you got other people. The hardest thing for me was, like, when Antonio and Christina said, it's like, when you first get into business, yeah, you sort of have to jump. And I've had people say, well, you tell them you're only gonna answer your phone from 9 to 6 o'clock every day. And it's like, well, okay, see how that works for you a year and a half down the road.
Mhm.
That ain't. But then again, eventually, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to keep talking.
Oh, no, you're good. No, you're good. Yeah, for sure. And then the other thing that it's one of the last communication parts and expectations is, especially with, again, the way the market's been, updating your clients on the market in general. Do you, again, if it's a buyer you've been working with for 6 months, are you sending maybe just like a monthly email, or maybe it's a phone call saying, hey, things are the same. Things are selling every 2 days. We still need to be on top of it. Or, I think we've all agreed there's a little bit of a shift, and I think the expectation for the buyer is still pretty much the same. Like, you still need to go see it when you want to see it. But yeah, really just market updates. I made a note in here. Do you maybe just mention this when you do showings, or when you're talking to the seller? Again, a seller calls you and they want to sell in 6 months. Do you just update them every month? So it just depends, really. And that was kind of this whole slide, is see what works best for you. Me personally, it's when I see them, or if I call them. We don't do like monthly emails to buyers stating all the differences in rates and that kind of stuff. I think that's just more organic. It comes up when it comes up, or not even comes up when it comes up. You bring it up when you need to.
I met with these people 2 months ago now, that they were gonna list the weekend that, I was there. And they decided, they're like, well, what if you wait? Well, we get more money if you wait. And I go, well, I can't, I wish I had a magic ball, like a magic, whatever it is. But I don't know that. So I told them the other day, and the market shifted. And I'm like, it's not gonna be what you think it's gonna be. So at least that they know now, and I told them then, hey, if we don't list this weekend, we don't list the next few weeks, your number may not be the same and the market may not be the same. So now that it has shifted, they can't come back to me and be like, well, I've heard, well, no, I've forewarned you, so just set those expectations. The market is changing, even when you go on a list appointment, way ahead of time. You never know with clients.
Yeah, I think, and bringing all of I know in the participant guide, there was all those steps of communication, and then bringing that in full circle, like I said at the beginning, doing all those kinds of things, again, will make your client happy in the short term, like for that specific deal or that specific house. But the point is, again, future business, referrals, things like that. So in your participant guide that says 3 steps to gaining referrals, it's on 16.6. 68% of sellers who used an agent found their agent through referral, through a friend or family. This is what we believe to be the three biggest pieces, and I have a little example. So number one, provide value, provide stellar service, education, advice, and care. Again, everything we've been discussing. Number two, ask for help. Let people know that your business is based on referrals. Your conversation book has some great, easy ways to ask for this help. It can also be as simple as, hey, I rely on referrals for my business. If there's anyone being very honest about the ask. Number three, actually, I'll do an example for the ask for help. I don't know if people here were in bold. I think Christina was in bold. They had an example. He had a great example I thought of when he sits down for a listing presentation or a buyer presentation. He goes through everything necessary and he ends with, if I deliver on everything I've told you, right? With again, buyer or seller, if I deliver on not my promises, but my duty, my job, and I do well by you, I will ask in exchange from you one referral. I will ask specifically for the name of one person that you think I could help, within the next 12 months. And that's part of the buyer presentation and listing presentation. It's in his document, which I thought is really interesting, right? It's a very direct ask. If I do what I say I'm going to do, will you provide a referral for me? So I thought that was interesting, very, very direct. And also it's one where you can kind of go back and say, hey, actually, this is what he did. When they close, there's an email saying, hey, if you remember at the beginning of this process, I asked, would you give me a referral if I do what I do? And I did what I did. So what name do you have for me? It's very open. It's very honest. Some people might be weary of you asking like that, but I think it's a really good way of, I'm asking for this if I do my job. It's kind of right. It's not just saying, please give me a name. It's let me prove myself and then please refer somebody. So I thought that was a good one. But so for three, reward the behavior of a referral. Don't wait for closing. As soon as a client or other member of your sphere of influence tells you they gave out your information, mentioned you on social media, whatever it is, show your gratitude, say thank you, whatever. I know specifically for us, I will say our referral gifts get better as the referrals continue to come in. Like I had a referral from clients I was working with, and bought or sold, and we were just in the process of looking. And they gave me a referral. I sent them a little gift, and we kind of have a thing of a mental track of, okay, they've now sent me, if they send me another one, it's number two, the gift is going to be better than the first gift. The third is going to be even better than the second gift, and just going about it that way because, if you reward people for giving you a referral, I'm sure they won't hurt to do it again. So.
Does anybody have any different ideas on how to get games? Testimonial, working really well.
I don't know, I just ask them, hopefully I provide a 5-star service for you, would you provide a good word?
And you're good. She's right her.
Whoever's at KW Synergy, if you guys don't mind pressing mute for the time being, that would be great. I don't know. I can't even see them.
Yeah.
Can you mute it?
I cannot. Okay.
That's why.
There, so okay, yeah.
Okay. Can anybody in the KW Synergy room hear me by chance?
Make sure.
Don't go the rest of them, take the speaker with you, please.
Hold on, let me see.
I'm trying to see what that is. I can't even tell what that is right there.
KW Synergy, this one.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm not that interested.
Yeah, I'm gonna have some this week.
See, yeah. But if they're not even listening, oh, there we go. It's muted now.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Sorry about that. So So that's kind of this next slide too, is how you ask, when you ask. I've heard varying things. Again, bold, they have reviews or whatever you want to call them throughout the process, not even just at the end. They'll do it after the buyer consultation. They'll do it after another month, whatever it might be. Again, everyone's different. If it's a listing, you might not even have the chance to do one in between. But yeah, a lot of different ones. We specifically do it. We send an email out the day after closing. We used to do them like a week after closing to kind of create a buffer, but we personally found that not as many people answer because it's a week later, and not that they forgot that they bought a house, but if you do it the day after, or even the day of, like it's top of mind and they're more likely to do it. And then use them the best you can, right? Post them on your social media, whatever. We do social media, Instagram, Facebook, that kind of stuff. And people see at least someone's given a good review, and we have them on our Google page as well. So if you Google the Roman Elliott Group, all bunch of reviews come up like immediately. So how do you guys repost them as well? I think you guys were just talking about that. I'm sorry when I was doing it.
So Jansen does, a sheet, a Google form.
Oh,
and
okay.
then she- that we're-
Okay, yeah, it's a good idea.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, this just says seller oriented reviews gain attention. A lot of times when they address, number one, the client's home sold quickly. Two, they got over asking, number three, they were impressed by the service. I put another review that that if sellers said it, I'd be very happy. I never felt out of touch. I never felt, because right, I mean, clients are leaning on us for communication and expectations and those things. So I love hearing, yeah, I never felt like I was out of touch. I never felt like I was lost, because to me, that means I did my job. If someone feels like for a day that they're confused on something, the inspection, whatever it is, then, more than likely I'm letting them down. So
Since the Ruler team has a lot of you guys, how do you guys do that? Like, where do they go?
We have a link. You send the link, you talk about referral
No,
or review, I mean.
We should like the Google.com, like something like the user and see like.
So it's your Google business.
Yeah, we need to get that.
okay. I can't decide what's better, Google Business, Zillow, like, I don't know, Yelp.
I think I've heard for search engine optimization, like your SEO, which is like tech, whatever, that Google is best from what I've heard, just because it stretches across so many other platforms and can just populate in
It's just
ways.
weird,
But
I also got listened to it, like, well, I checked your Zillow reviews, I'm like,
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about pictures? Like, I don't do. When you get some like case, because I don't do my pictures.
it's close, Miranda and Amanda.
I mean, but I'll tell you one, the best reviews I ever had, which I probably should pull it out again. When I sold a house probably 15 years ago, I asked the people to send a review. All they did was send a picture of the three boys, like 5, 8, and 10, standing in the front yard next to my sign, all giving thumbs up.
Yeah.
And there was no words. And it was like, the picture spoke for itself.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about pictures versus written reviews?
So I think,
We get written reviews and it's not such video.
Okay.
yeah. And I think,
Yeah.
so overall on social media, videos tend to do better. We are potentially starting with someone who's going to up our marketing a little bit. And I've seen teams do videos of the clients stating, when I worked with Christina, just, and obviously ask for their permission, they gotta be willing to do it, but it doesn't need, well, it shouldn't be long. It should be 25 seconds,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, when I worked with Christina, it was fantastic. She did X, Y, and Z, highly recommend, boom, outro, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, because people by social media statistics look at videos more than they look at static images. So
You need to start getting more.
yeah, and it's honestly a hard thing when you're so busy. I mean, it goes for everybody, right? You kind of get lost. I always say you get lost in the sauce. You kind of get lost in what you're making. And
Really, there's only 30 hours a day.
yeah, right. So buyer reviews, they said the top 4 things that people like to read. The agent found the perfect home for me pretty quickly. The agent negotiated a good price. The transaction was very smooth. Number 4, they were impressed by the service. Again, I wrote one that I would like to hear from a buyer. We felt like our agent did everything they could for us. Just an overarching statement of, we felt like they did their best. What do you guys like to hear from buyers? Like one-liners? She's a bomb.com. Right. We'll see if we get any of those,
She was the bomb.com.
right?
Hell yes.
Yeah.
.org.
Yeah.
Yeah, knowledgeable.
Yeah, I'd like, you know, like, okay.
Yeah. For sure, for sure. And we're the experts. So to hear knowledgeable, to hear someone actually say that, it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to skip this slide. I feel like we've had a lot of ahas like throughout if you guys don't mind. Okay. So we've already gone over a ton of stuff. I might walk over a couple of things because we've already talked buyers specifically. But the chart here, what buyers want most from their agent. So 52% help find the right home to purchase, 13% negotiate terms, 11% price, and 24% other. 8% of the other is help with paperwork and or clarity about paperwork. Don't just drop off the RPD or whatever it may be. Make that clear. 6% said determine the comparable homes and if the price is correct, and 4% help determine how much home buyers can afford. So it's not just helping find the right home, it's the whole thing all encompassed into one. Okay, so again, we kind of went over this a little bit. Buyer needs analysis. I was kind of, I guess I'm not going to say I had an aha. I had a light bulb go off in my head. When I sit down with people, it's what is an absolute non-negotiable? Like, what will you not look at? Right? Like, if you need a 2-car garage and you have to have a 2-car garage because for whatever reason. Okay, great. What are a couple of things that maybe for the perfect house you'd be willing to give up? Not that I want them to give up anything, right? But if there's 10 things on the checklist and it has 9, what's that one thing you'd be willing to say, okay, I would forego that to get the other 9 things that I want. And it's not that you're looking for that, but you need to know, like the middle column here, beyond your top 5 needs, what is something you really want? So being very clear on this, again, expectations, because when you show a house like, oh, I don't like this, not that you have to defend yourself, but you can say, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought you liked, I thought we were going for these 5 things. I thought this had that. And then, as you guys know, buyers will probably evolve, right? Hey, I appreciate you showing me that, but maybe what I said at the beginning isn't as important to me now. I'm switching gears. So another part about this is review their needs. I put that I think we naturally review their needs in showings. Like I said, you want the 5 things. Here's the 5 things. Oh no, you know what? I don't want that. I want this now. Okay, great. And take that home and actually fix that in your search, whether it's your search on the MLS or your mental search, because you don't want a client saying, hey, I don't need a 2-car garage anymore. I'm okay with a 1, and you just keep showing 2-car garages that don't fit the other bill. Just take mental note of all the things that they mentioned and that are super important to them, as well as their life itself. Forget the house. Ask about how their job is going, all that kind of thing, because if they might be getting a new job and pre-approval might be an issue, and you might be able to kind of nip that in the butt before it starts. Tons of things, rates, getting a pay raise or a pay cut, whatever it may be, because it's going to affect what we do.
Or what your implement's like in the next 5 years.
So that's this right here. So buyers' lives change or buyers' world changes.
But they have sex and have kids.
This is PG or PG. I apologize. I'm just kidding. Viewer discretion advised. So yeah, right. So buyers
We're married until.
yes, correct. Buyer's life change or buyer's world changes. 2 different things, 2 completely different things. Buyer's life is going to be something. Buyers' lives are going to be something that's, again, like that's their job. That's their personal job. Things are changing. Again, it'll affect the home search, but it'll affect them and their well-being. Buyer's world changes, something that happens outside of them personally, obviously a family situation, things like that. So always be cognizant of that. Again, those things can change a house search. So we had clients who all of a sudden were going to take in, their mother-in-law. So the 3-bedroom is no longer possible. We need X, Y, and Z. And again, I think we get a little numb to the house search sometimes, and staying true to, hey, what's going on with your life? How, if they have kids, how's the kids doing? Things will come up. And there's even more stuff through here that
That's why I think
specific
you should-
examples.
I take it very personal, and I always have.
Mhm.
And I think the more effort that we take to get to know buyer, the seller, whatever that is, the more we're gonna read between the lines, because you put somebody on the spot and say, give me 5 things you want to have, and then they go look at 3 houses, 5 houses, like, that's great, but I'm not touching it. But the more, as we can use our skill set though, the more we get to know and know that, hey, maybe somebody's handicapped in the family, maybe
Right.
they have a lifelong dependent. Maybe they are retiring, maybe they're gonna have hip surgery, maybe, all these
Mhm.
different things for, you talk about garages, maybe somebody's gonna retire and they're gonna start working on a car.
Yeah.
Those things are, we can take that in between the lines information and I think apply it and say, hey, you know what, I was thinking about you. I know you said you're looking for this, but you know what, you mentioned this when we were talking.
Yeah, for sure.
This would fit, or they're a crafter, or they're, you know what I mean? There's something, I think that's, at least I appreciate knowing them more. Because a lot of things can be changed with a paintbrush or some new flooring, new carpet, this, polish.
Right.
If we touch on things that really fit with their life or where their life's going.
You find a better fit for sure. And then this, again, in conversations, this comes up. Tough conversations mean fiduciary conversations. I'd say this is true, unless you guys can give me a good example, probably every time, 100% of the time. If you have to have a tough conversation, it's because what you thought was going to happen didn't, and you need to revise and you need to pivot course a little bit. They're tough. You have to do it. I think the people that are really successful in this industry do this very well. And again, if you set up for success in the first place, I think these tough conversations get a little easier personally. Everyone expects their house to sell in 2 days, but with what's going on now, it's, hey, I know you've been seeing what's on social media or the news for the last 2 years and things have been going quick, but I can't sit across the table from you and promise you I'm going to have 10 offers to you by Sunday. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do all I can for that to happen, but I can't promise that. That way, like Joe said, when they call Tuesday and they're like, where are all my offers? You're like, hey, not that you go back on yourself. It's not, hey, I told you weren't going to have any. It's not that. It's just, again, I'm going to do my best. We're all going to do our best. But if you're promising things that, you can't deliver, you're going to have tough conversations that are even tougher. So they want this to kind of be harped on. I think everyone has their own way of doing this. So I'll just kind of go over the big things. They say showing homes isn't our job at selling homes. I think in this market, the way things are going, I think showing homes is just the biggest help. You need to show a bunch of things and then say, hey, or, if they don't believe you that it went in contract over asking, not prove it, but you need to show, hey, remember this was listed at $299 and it went for $345. Okay. Just be prepared for things like that. So showing homes based on what they said they need. Again, I personally love to throw a little different house in there sometimes. Hey, this is what you said we wanted. We've seen 10 of them. They don't fit the bill. Why don't we, trust me on this one. Go out on a limb with me for a second. Let's go see this one. And maybe it doesn't fit all their needs. And I know that, but hey, let's change it up because what we've been looking at isn't working. And maybe, maybe it sparks a different conversation and maybe they find something else they like.
I think it's good.
Yeah, I always
think if you narrow things down too much, it's not like there's a million houses to show you.
exactly.
That
And
goes back to where my thought process was, people are gonna tell you what they think they want.
right.
Put them on a spot.
Mhm.
But if we hear their life story, we hear, they're doing this, the kids play soccer, they're this, they got 4 dogs, whatever those things are. And maybe based on their checklist, we're looking at things that encompass everything, but those extras
Right.
in their life, and we say, all right, we're gonna show you those, and then for a minute, it's like, why don't we go the other direction?
Right. Yeah, switch it up. I think it's valuable to just see other things. Joe, like you said, if you hone in on the only houses that fit the 10 of the 10 things they want, it can be difficult, right? And if you throw something else in there, again, you might find out some other stuff. So best practices, I'm assuming especially people in the room and on the phone do these things, but again, print out MLS things, listings. So that's, I guess, number one is what we just talked about. Show only the best properties for your buyer. I think overall we all agree with that. I think in this market, when it's hard to find the exact thing. Again, throwing something a little different in there could be beneficial. Mark properties on a map. So all these things, obviously you can read them. I do Google Earth search every time, or Google Maps and just hit like the street view, because again, you might know the area, and maybe if you know it, you're like, hey, doesn't this back up to, you know, like a warehouse, or doesn't this back up to something? If you know the area, if you don't, even more so, just click the street view. It takes you like 2.5 seconds on Google. And it'll at least, because then you can tell your clients, not that you don't want them to go see it, but hey, this is on a very, very busy road. You know, is that okay with you? And if they want to see it, obviously great. But that might say, oh, you know what? Yeah, I absolutely don't want to live on a busy street, or I don't want a warehouse behind me. Thanks. You know, thanks for doing that. Let's move on. So it can also be valuable too, because you showed your clients that you're doing research prior to even going to see it. They'll probably trust you just based on that, or at least a little more based on stuff like that. So, and then RPD, sorry, this is blocked. Point out potential issues or concerns. I do tend to do it prior to the showing. I have gotten good and bad feedback from that. Some people are like, well, I still want to see it. Okay, great. No problem. I just want you to know that they disclosed a flood in the basement last year and whatever, things like that. I just want you to know it before you see it. I don't want you to get your hopes up and then come crashing down.
So you do it before the showing?
Yeah. So I will always look at RPD if it's there. I think for me, the things I would point out are like major things. I know sometimes we see on RPD, like in other comments, something that's just like, I don't need to know that, but it's like, okay, that's not really groundbreaking. But yeah, like if roof leak, roof repaired, I will say like, hey, at some point this happened, because if you go in and see a yellow spot on the ceiling and then it's kind of the, oh my gosh, this house is horrible. It's like, well, you know, the roof did have a leak. They did repair it. Maybe they just didn't get to the interior repair. So having that, you're kind of like a step ahead, if you will.
I would say also, I have a lot of so at my house, and they will send me things that have literally nothing of what they wanted, but it's a pretty house and they really like it. So when they send me that, I actually will respond of, hey, it doesn't have this, or this. Are we sure that we want to go see it? And sometimes we'll say, yes, maybe this is important, you know, or that I wanted to have it. Or they might be like, you know what, actually, thanks for saying that, because I need to just like focus and I'm just like super excited. So thanks for paying attention and not wasting my time.
Yeah.
You'll have some will start looking at condos and say, wow. They start looking at houses, total condos.
Yeah.
Why the hell have I been showing you? Well, no, is that not true?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
a good way to kind of, but to me, it's, or people say, I definitely want to choose. Nah, we want to. And
Yeah.
and sometimes they don't know. And like Antonio said, you don't know until you go. And really the best education is when you're walking through the house with them.
Yeah.
And they start pointing out things you like and don't.
Yeah. And I think, go ahead.
Buyer's remorse is super high right now. Whether or not it's the first house they saw and they're writing on, or their agent has helped analyze their goals for, 5 years from now, and all of a sudden they've outgrown it a lot quicker. So in my buyer consultation, I tell them that the first weekend that we go out, we have no intention of writing on anything. I said, if we find the one, that's absolutely fantastic, but we're gonna walk into a house with 20 other people in there, and I want you to focus on the layout and square footage and everything else, and you're gonna ignore everybody else there because you're not buying it. And then we'll reanalyze your one's needs after we do that whole weekend, and we're gonna go see a bunch of different things, whether or not it's in Tasco with an acre, or we're gonna go to Gahanna with ranch. We're gonna see completely different things, and if you think that you might not like it. So then they say, oh, you know what, I did like split level. So then we did go see a split level the first weekend. We see just a bunch of different things. So then when it's time for them to pull the trigger, because you have to pull the trigger quickly, they're gonna feel comfortable in that decision. I'm gonna feel comfortable in that decision because I know that I showed them a bunch of different options.
Yeah.
So they don't feel pressure to just buy the first thing because they see other 20 other people and they're like, well, okay, what do we have to do to get it? Well, they may not even like it. They just like it because it's a house and they're excited to not live in a property.
Yeah. I've done with like maybe first time home buyer or first time buying in a long time buyers. I'll give, let's just say we're going to see 3 houses Saturday morning. I'll have the MLS printouts in a folder with a pen, and I will write on the bottom likes and dislikes. So, hey, we're going to see 3 houses. They're going to be all 3 different. Tell me what you like about this specific house and tell me what you do not like. And you can kind of very quickly figure out, again, what they like. When you force them to write it down, they're going to be actually pretty picky about what they write down. They're not going to write down 100 things. They're going to write, I loved the layout. I hated the kitchen, whatever it is. So you can kind of quickly see those kinds of things. So transitioning a little bit, I'm going to not speed up and make it bad, but I'm gonna speed up a little bit. So working with other agents, obviously this is a ton of our job. Our clients are extremely important and they're the reason we're in business, but we can't do it without somebody else. So, I think this goes into agency remarks, reading those kinds of things, educating yourself before you need to call the listing agent. Which I would always recommend, right? Client sends you it, hey, I need to read the agency remarks. I need to see the RPD. And then if I have questions, I'll follow up. I think a lot of this is just answering your phone. If you see a number that you don't know, just answer it. Because it might be about, you know what I mean? I mean, truly in this business, you never know. But if you, especially if you have a listing, you got to answer the questions. Again, this section is more on buyers. I'm going to call. I pray they answer because it just makes it smoother. If I have to leave a voicemail and I tell my clients like, hey, I'll let you know the answer to that when they get back to me. It doesn't look great. So we all just help each other by being completely honest. Just answering the phone makes transaction a lot
You
more.
know what I noticed in the last week, like, I get a lot of spam risk.
Mhm.
I've been answering, and it's been other agents.
So I was, yeah. So
So I don't know if you don't notice that on your phone, you know, my phone comes up spam risk. And I answer, it's other agents.
yeah, I haven't had it that much, but I have had, like, it's not one of every two for me, but it's like one of every 10. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm happy I answered this because,
You know, like.
this is actually somebody.
In probably the last 7 days.
Oh, really?
Agents.
okay. Yeah, I've noticed too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Jan Johnson.
And it was
It was
spam
spam.
risk.
Yeah, I was like, oh, hey.
So why is that? Does anyone know?
It's not in your phone's contact. You're not in contact. And like.
I think also they've starting to really hone in on it because of just other things like the actual reason they have spam risk. But I think they've dialed in their like specifications a little too tight because if it's someone's zip or area code, like if it's not 614 or 740, it already naturally starts to push it out. Like, well, it doesn't mean they're not from Columbus, you know, so that part's a little hard. So real quick, home tour toolkit. I'm not sure what you guys do. I have things that I do every single showing. You guys make fun of, well, not you guys, Josh Nungesser, plug, makes fun of me because I carry a fanny pack. I wear a fanny pack all the time. When I go for showings, I have a flashlight and I have a tape measure in my fanny pack and I get laughed at. But the one time that the basement light doesn't work and, you know, and you have your phone flashlight, but your phone flashlight isn't really bright enough, to be honest, to see what you need. I've got a nice flashlight and the amount of times, oh, would my bed fit here? Would my couch fit here? And if if they're very serious about the house, I'm like, here, measure it. What do you need? You know, so again, everyone kind of has their own thing.
That's a good idea.
Oh, I think honestly, the tape measure
I let.
has gone a long way. No joke. I mean, it really has gone a long way. And you don't need a big one. I mean,
Right.
one that does 25 feet is this big. You just put it in your pocket, whatever you want to do.
That's a good idea.
But it's been helpful. So I can say that I do not carry
I usually
a
use
level.
my feet and walk it.
I lay them.
So I've also seen people,
Yeah, you're right over there.
I've seen people carry marble instead of a level.
Check for.
Oh, yeah.
Just drop it there. And I will say that's a little lenient because marbles can roll on flat, like whatever. But I've seen people do that, or they bring a tennis ball, something heavy enough to where like it really has to, if it's on level, it will actually move. Whereas marbles, I don't know, they can move pretty quick. So yeah, just some ideas. And then safety first, I was going to touch on here in bold. The gentleman said, hey, when you go on listing appointments or buyer, whatever it is, if you're going somewhere, right, to see a house, how do you park? Where do you park? What do you do? And his thing was never park in a driveway ever. Park facing the exit of the neighborhood, just in case. I mean, truthfully, again, I think we're numb to it. We put ourselves in some situations where we have no idea what's on the other side of the door. And we think like, oh, it's just going to be fine. Nobody's going to be here until you walk in on somebody. Or I've heard of some stories in certain areas. You walk in on a squatter just there and you don't know if they might be the nicest person you've ever met. They might not be. So it's like, just be aware. I do ever since I think I always kind of did it, but since I heard it at Bold, I park facing the exit of the neighborhood, kind of ready to, I don't want to say ready to go, but ready to go. And again, this kind of can come in at any time. Listing appointment as well. Some people are like, I want to make it look like I'm comfortable. I pull in the driveway. A lot of people I know are like, do not do that. You want to see the whole house. You know, what if you pull over like this is a little thing, but if you pull over a major crack in the driveway, like a huge issue in the driveway, you might not even notice it. And not because you're not a good agent, just because you have a big car and you drove over it.
I try. I don't do it as a courtesy more so that
if they need to get
So
out.
they have-
The street from packed people and no one wants to park in the driveways. I'm like, well,
I'll park it.
Well, I leave it open for the buyer. I leave it open for the.
Yeah, exactly.
Park there.
I always heard on listing appointments too, people park in the driveway and then someone, a kid's like, hey, I need to go to practice. Can you move your car? It's like, you should never be in, whatever. Shouldn't be in the situation where, oh yeah, let me leave this appointment to go move my car where I shouldn't have parked in the first place. Again, little things, but just as we all know, beyond.
be aware, I did a Referrals actually when I first got the business. And we decided to do a weeknight because we thought it would be good. It was in Lewis Center, great neighborhood in the shores. And we thought that we would get good traffic when people could bring home from work. And it was during the winter time where, you know, I did it between 4 and 6 or 5 and 7 or something like that. And within the first hour it got very dark and I was in a vacant house. So no one was gonna come find me and I just had this like sick, like gut feeling. And I was like, you know what, Jill's not gonna be pissed if I leave an hour early, like, I didn't feel safe. So I decided to leave an hour early, pack up my stuff. As I get into my car, a car pulls up in front of the house. Cause I wouldn't have been able to see, I couldn't see anybody walking before because it was so dark. And I'm just sitting there, you can tell I'm the only person in this house, all the lights are on. This car pulls up, immediately turns her lights off as they're pulling up in front of the house, pull up behind me. And I immediately turned my car on and they bolted out in the neighborhood. And I was in Lewis Center, of all, like,
Yeah.
you know, just. If you don't feel safe, just don't do it or call somebody. Like,
I also heard the flashlight thing before. If they take your phone, like then they have your phone, how are you gonna get help or?
Right. So I have
Never
the
thought of
flashlight.
that.
I actually bought the flashlight off of somebody from Bold who's like a self-defense trainer, and it's like extremely hurtful. So he was like, this is also my self-defense. If anything, like one, I can flash it in their eyes, which probably would maybe stop somebody like at the right time. But he was like, it's just outside of my hand when I hold it like this.
that makes sense.
Whatever. He's like, so if you're ready, I mean, whatever, like if you're ready to just like hit something or whatever. So, but so let's move to success. So success with sellers. Let's move this a little bit. We'll probably go through this just a little quicker because a lot of the things do overlap. I mean, there are different things, but so here's a pretty interesting graphic, I think. Well, those oranges are extremely similar. Okay. 21% help price home competitively, 20% help seller market home to potential buyers, 16% for both help sell the home within a specific time frame or help the seller find ways to fix up the home before the sale. And the largest portion is other. That is 6% is helping with negotiations and dealing with buyers and buyers agents. 5% is paperwork, inspections, timelines, preparing for closing, etc. And 12% just says helping find a buyer in general. So whether that's through marketing, you know, calling other agents, etc. And then we have similar to what we did with the buyer. We start in the same place with sellers that we do with buyers. Their needs analysis. For sellers, we need to know their price, time frame, conveyances. Again, all those things that we know through listing appointment. We got my sister and I actually do listing appointments completely differently. Well, I wouldn't say completely differently, but one of the major things we do differently. Christina asks what they think their house is worth, or just to some extent, that type of question. What do you think? Or, hey, here's my opinion. How do you feel? I start with all comps, what your house has that others don't, maybe what your house doesn't have that others don't. And here's my professional opinion on the price. Then I ask, you know, are you surprised? Is that high? Is that low? What do you think? So a lot of different ways of doing it.
Are
But
you doing a range or are you picking a number?
I tend to do a number, but given a range, if that makes sense. Like I say, if this was my house, if this is my, you know, based on what I know, this is what I would do. If you want this to go quickly, if your time frame is extremely tight and you need to move out of state, etc. Hey, let's be a little competitive. Hey, if you absolutely you want to sell this, but time doesn't really bother you, you know, maybe 3 weeks on the market doesn't bother you or whatever it may be. Okay, maybe we can push it a little bit if you want, but with the expectation of, hey, if we push it and, you know, if we push price and we're not getting what you want, here's why we're not getting it, right? Because we're pushing in comparison to your neighbors. We're pushing in comparison to, hey, the square footage is even as big as whatever, you know, comparables around.
A
So
lot of times we're been in it. So you're gonna say, well,
exactly.
basically confident between this and this.
Yep.
You know, it's gonna be between this and this. now that I've been in the house, let me go back and let me double check Brandon on the other houses, make sure, let me check the age of the AC, the furnace, things like that. So that's why I prefer it.
Yeah, and
And then go back and later, hey, I'll call you because I dive a little bit deeper into now that I've been there and I'll give you a solid number.
yeah, and that's where this next slide comes into play is pricing condition. So like you said, hey, I have it depends what the price of the home is. Let's say it's a $30,000 range. I don't know. I mean, it completely depends. A lot of it is number two. It's condition. You've never been in it. You know, they tell you they updated it last year and it's fantastic, and it might be. Or they tell you they updated it last year, it's fantastic, and you walk in and you're like, you did what? Like, you know, and not in a bad way, but you are walking into something you've never been in. So that range is very important. And then telling them why the lower price on the range is what we're going to go with, or why the higher.
The one that's full of so much crap that, you know, it's like, you know what?
Yep.
We get some of this stuff done. I can't even.
She waited like 6 weeks on one. They thought they were ready for that weekend. She walked in and was like, I'm sorry. But so one thing we say in listing appointments, and I've gotten good feedback from this, I'm sure you guys say similar things, is, you know, I walk into somebody's house and I say, hey, this is what we need to do in order to sell it. My job isn't to love your house. My job is to sell your house. So all the pictures of your family that you have up, I love them. I want them to stay here. But for pictures, I think it's best they come down, and for showings, or just because you need to let the buyer see that house for them, not your house. They need to see their house. So when I say it like that, the conversation of, hey, those photos need to come down, or, hey, we're going to get the carpets cleaned, or, hey, you know, those kinds of things become a little easier because they heard, oh, wow, he just said his job is to sell my house, not to love it. Yeah. Or right. Or with this market, the way it's been, it's like, we had a seller who was ready to put $25,000 into remodeling their house. And I sat there and I said, I don't mean this bad. I said, why? Here are our options.
You're not gonna get it.
You put 25 into it, I'm going to list it 20 higher than just because of the comps and the way the range is. It's like, yeah. Or, I mean, to be honest, yeah, you have people who redid their bathroom and you're like, that's not, you know what I mean? If you're going to make your whole house look like that, let's just sell it the way it is, you know? And then they're tough conversations, but a lot of times in the end, they understand, they're happy. You know, if you know what you're doing, or a crumbling basement. Yeah, exactly. So sensitive seller conversations. I'm sure everybody's had these: odor from pets, smoking, cluttered conditions, all those kinds of things. I think we all agree that absolute upfront honesty and no sugarcoating is the only way to do it. You know, we do carpet cleanings as part of our listing on our dime if it's necessary. We also have a very close friend that does it, so it makes it easy. But sometimes it's really important, right? Sometimes in the entry you're like, whoa, you know, it looks like your dog's ran over that 100 times or so. But those conversations, as we all know, they can be sensitive, but they're extremely important for expectations for, hey, I'm a professional and this is what needs done. And you're probably going to get pushback depending on who it is. Or you have some people that are, hey, you're the expert. If that's what we need to do, that's what we need to do. We'll wait an extra week, you know, till less or 2 weeks or whatever it may be.
I will also say this, that's where me and Tony are the same and different. We have the same goals, but his approach is more numbers, my approach is more sensitive. So I think, you know, when I have an engineer, I'm probably gonna send Antonio to go do it because I'm not gonna relate to engineer as much as he will. And then if, you know, if he has a female that's lived there for 20 years, he's probably gonna send me because I'm more emotional. So, you know, you really just have to know your audience and be them, feel for them. I cried with my seller. She wanted me to cry with her, so I cried with her because, you know, that's what she wanted. And she's like, you care.
I think too, I think
then I'm gonna cry.
a lot of it too is, and I always say, it's up to you. I mean, at the end, I hate saying that, but at the end, I'm like, listen, this is your house. This is your experience. Okay. If you want to put $25,000 into your house to do it, great. But based on my recommendation, I wouldn't for these reasons. And again, it's not, and I always say, not because I don't like you. It's not because I don't like your house. It's because you want to hire me to do it and I want to do the best job. And I think this is the best route. So just a lot of those conversations that are fun to have. So great agent client communication, again, things you guys know, provides a strong foundation. These are the same exact things that are up here for the buyer side. Because I think they go both ways and you guys can read, and I'm not going to waste your time reading them to you. I say enough stuff anyway. So, okay. So that's a paper I should not have had. So all of these, what? Okay. Let me read this part. So no commission is worth your reputation. I think we all can agree on that. You've had deals that, if you're not doing these things that KW, strives to be in terms of a brokerage and at an individual agent level, it's not worth it, right? If you're not committing to all things in the transaction because I don't know, you found out you don't like the seller. I don't know, right? I mean, you just find out you guys don't mesh well, and your opinion, their opinion, you guys butt heads. Again, we know people who have just walked away from listings, right? This is not, I don't want to walk away from this with you bad mouthing my name to your 10 best friends. I'd rather just step away from this and feel free to call, X, Y, or Z. And I think it's crazy because, again, in a job where we don't have, I would say, steady income, it's really hard to walk away from something like that. But there's a line I always say to people: the best business decisions you ever make are the ones you don't, right? Some of the best decisions millionaires make are the deals that they never went into because they were skeptical of it, because that's what saved them so much money. Same idea here, right? And yeah, again, it's hard, but so this is in here. I'm sorry, this is a lot. We can just talk about how we market listings. How about that? There are in here. We can talk about. Well, yeah, I'm sorry, but the way they're gone over. So, I have about 20 minutes, and I'm going to leave time for our sponsor. So, I say everyone kind of does different things here. I think we do a ton of social media, a ton of Facebook, Instagram. When we go to open houses, she'll go live. Hey, I'm here at XYZ Main Street, or 123 Main Street. Come visit 2 to 4, whatever. Try to be proactive in it. Throw out the open house stuff the day before. Throw out the showing start the day before, whatever, right? So people can see it. Again, your buyer doesn't always come from social media, but we have a feedback form at our open houses says, how did you hear about this? Be surprised the amount of people that put online social media. Obviously you see signs. Most people don't go because of the signs, but some people do. Most are their agent, right? Hey, they weren't able to get into a showing, so they go to the open house. But you'd be surprised to see how many click social media. And if I'm in there with enough time to talk to them about it, I always say, how? We did a garage show last weekend. We sponsored it, and people walking up and down the street. I was like, hey, how'd you hear about this? And everyone, because we knew the neighborhood pretty well, so we knew a lot of the people naturally. So when we saw someone we didn't know, it's like, hey, how'd you hear about this? And a lot of them were, Instagram, Facebook. I'm like, cool. So it's reaching, someone is seeing this. There's an end person that's seeing this and doing it, which is always good. So the message you put out to attract prospective buyers, sellers is everything. Why would they want to contact you in this market? What would they get if they did? These 2 questions are at the heart of all effective messaging, which to me, that kind of overall encompasses value proposition, right? Is your name not big enough? Is your name well known? Are there friends referring you? And it makes, I think, this quote a little bit easier, right? Especially if you're getting referred. So there's reasons why. Your MLS listing reflects this. Again, I'll kind of go through it. Now that we have more people on the team, have different sets of eyes on things like this. Make sure that when you put up that listing, it's basically perfect the second you load it. You don't need to go in, and I'm sure you guys have seen the houses that they list for $33,000 instead of $330,000. Little things like that. I mean, there's no reason to get that wrong. It's our job. So reread it. Set the right schedule, again, based on your sellers, and utilize, again, great pictures, floor plans. There's so many other things you can do too. I know people do like the area. I forget the term of those right now, but stats on the area, schools that are close, walking proximity, things like that. So right now it might not seem like we need to do all of that, but I think we can all agree we're probably getting there, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, you can import your listing. That's not even on my notes. I didn't know this line was in here. Cool. Well, so we do now with we use Canva for social media stuff, and now Command can just import the data and make these for you. So I think we are going to move to that as Canva just gets whatever. It's a whole nother thing you need to do, whereas we all have Command. So it makes it a little bit easier. Proper signage within 1 business day. Again, you guys probably know the rules. Coming soon. Got to have it there within a business day. I think you guys know the signage rules. KW Excel has to be on there. Your name has to be on there. Team has to be on there. Things like that. And then the co-op. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, success. So We talked about the co-op agent, just communication. A lot of that again is just being clear, being concise, being an advocate for your clients. How many times have you guys been on the phone with, if you have a listing or whatever it is, and the other agent on the other line, you know, you don't maybe love how they're communicating or appreciate how they're doing it, and you feel like it's hurting their client. You know, you're not going to see that agent's name and just throw the papers out. But when you're on the phone, it's like, okay, you know, this might be a difficult one, or the opposite way. Great agent on the other line, clear communication, is honest. You know what I mean? And you can, when you get off the phone, you feel like, okay, this is going to be a smooth transaction. Whether it's easy or hard is different than smooth, right? It could be hard and still be smooth if it's done with two good agents. So
It's funny, is that something I've noticed already, being so new in the industry and the deals I've worked on so far is I had one that was extremely easy to talk to. We just talked directly, it was clean. The next one was delayed answers, was delayed responses, was almost like, did you not get what I said? You know, I mean, it was like, I was talking in big Latin.
yeah,
And
it almost becomes like a nuisance to reshare all
then I
the
see
same.
them at closing, and it's like, oh yeah, but you can just see it's like they're nice enough, but it's like they're in la la land. And where the first one I work with, it's like, yeah, we're both on the same sheet of music. They're doing their fiduciary responsibilities. I'm doing mine, and our job is to communicate and make the deal happen for the best of both of us.
Yeah.
Where the other one's like, I'm like,
Yeah, I think,
I'm not sure who you're working for.
yeah, no, I think a lot of it is, and everyone knows this, but you know, it's never between the agent. It's not between the agent and the agent. I think some people might get caught up in that. Like when you're negotiating, someone's like, oh, well, you think I'm like, no, I've said nothing about you personally. You know what I mean? It's not about that. It's, I'm doing what my client wants. I've advised them on the other options we have. This is the option they want to go with, having that tough conversation. But again, I mean, I've had what I would probably consider difficult transactions go smoothly. Like things come up and it's like, is this going to blow it up? Who's going to be mad? Who's going to be? And then you have one agent doing a great job representing them and us hopefully doing a great job as well. And it doesn't have to just be easy to be smooth. It can be a little challenging, be smooth as well. So that's it for me. We have a sponsor that's going to say a few words. I'm on camera up here. So if you want to come up here, great. If you don't, also great. It's up to you. And then after that, I think there's lunch up there. So we'll let him go and then we'll eat some food.
Yeah.
Actually, look, we're like opposite.
Yes.
Oh, that's cute, yeah.
Good thing you called me.
I'm Brian Williams with America's Preferred Home Warranty. Real quick, we are a business partner nationally, came in September. Mr. Keller didn't realize that we worked with about 560, 570 market centers throughout the country. We also have a business partnership with this particular market center. I always say, don't choose us because of that, or if you learn to like me because of that, or if there's a fee passed on to you, do what's always best for you and your client. You had mentioned new to the business. Okay. My role is to just educate and train on home warranties. Obviously, the market is kind of dictating home inspections, home warranties. Typically, they're getting written out. Sometimes I'm getting calls that, hey, we closed 2 days ago. Can they order one? The scary thing, and I like what you were saying about customers, because according to NAR Research Group, 9 out of 10 homeowners say they'll work with their homeowner again. Number is actually 20%. And then you take this market. My perception as a buyer is you didn't do your job, even though you did. My perception is now you didn't. So that number is even decreasing more in that aspect. Funny thing, if someone would Google 2022 home buyer's remorse, you can, or I can just tell you that it's 75% right now this year, which is scary because all of us like to win, obviously the win-win. But what buyers are doing and they're winning because they're paying the most for the home. That's 75%. Because if you Google it, it's about 5.1, it might be higher now, ticks or clicks for that search. And I think there was only 6.1 million transactions, maybe totally, throughout last year. So if you look at that, that percentage is there. Part of that 75% is 40% comes of that is unexpected expenses. So if I chose not to do a home inspection, even though you guided me to, because I want a clean transaction, chose not to get a warranty. People are using either 401k money, borrowing it from mom and dad. I was talking to a mortgage person the other day that said, because I said, tell me about appraisal gap, because I don't know much about it. And if they're borrowing any money, she goes, out of curiosity, does your grandparents still have? I said, no. So I'm the oldest of 11 on this side, second 4. She said, let's just take your 4. If your grandparents gave you each 10 grand, they have to realize that that's a gift and they will never see it again, because now I'm paying this much more for the house. It's kind of like when you drive that new car off the lot and now it's 5, 6, 7 grand upside down. And if 78% of the population was paycheck to paycheck, and now I've paid this much, there's a study that says homeowners who or buyers who have $5,000 extra for an unexpected expense, it's like 1 in 7. Some don't even have that 1,000. So if my fridge goes, or say for instance Freon, like we have unlimited Freon. Others have caps unless you buy the highest price one. I had a heat claim out of this market center the other 2 weeks ago. 4 pounds of Freon was $250 per pound. So that perception is, if I do have a warranty, and no one reads all 13 pages, I don't expect you guys to, or the homeowner. But if I have an air conditioning call, I'm calling in, getting the claim. With us, you get to choose your own contractor. So what I like with that is they work for them, they don't work for us. But now got my compressor fan fixed, and now I have $1,000 worth of Freon. Probably calling my agent with that. So, and I learned this from a Keller Williams agent of about 20 years. So I took a promotion in September. I opened the Des Moines, Iowa market where I'm from, and took a promotion in September and took over 2 people's spots that we call Central Ohio. Not sure if anyone worked with Blair in the past.
Yeah.
She obviously took on a different position, and she's, as long as she's happy, that's all that matters. But when you walk in to her mom's market center, is, hey, you're replacing Blair. I'm not replacing her. She just chose to move on. Always will go to bat for you, because this is black and white. Customer service is black and white. But if your client calls you and says, hey, it seems gray to them and it's gray to you, call me right away. Because if I know about it and I can get some extra dollars, I'm going to call you back, because I'd rather you wear the superhero cape. Because if the neighbor needs, and if they're happy and the neighbor's moving back to Des Moines, they need an agent. And I want them calling you rather than, somebody else with that. So part of that 75%, 7 out of 10 times a major system or appliance is going to fail the first year. So when I was married and my kids were younger, we moved into an older folks home. I ran the systems and appliances the same way. We went in there, had to replace a 30-gallon hot water heater, which wouldn't have worked for us, family of 5 anyway, washer and a dishwasher. So we'd kind of destroyed those systems, because they run and they're like, I don't know what's going on right now. And they cover that. Do you guys talk about warranties?
Yeah.
Obviously, again, just because we have a business partnership, I know there's more in the back or in the front there. Do you guys use America's Preferred, or?
In this market, I feel like it's one of those things where we're not putting it in the contract, but I'm still having a conversation with them on the benefit of having one if they want to pay out of their own pocket.
Yep.
I've also purchased them out of my own commission.
Yep.
If I feel like it's, I don't want to say risky, but like, sometimes you can just gauge whether or not you should have one. Sometimes I'm just willing to pay it out of my commission
Yep.
as like a closing gift.
Yep.
So even though, you know, we're not ready even for the first contract, I still think it's a conversation that needs to be had.
Well, and I think there's a bunch of warranties out there. And fortunately that we have a, you know, now I don't like the Gary put vendor on there, but, because I'd rather be a partner. And it's about relationships, because I know there's teams in here that have had relationships with others for 10 years. That was before my boss even was, who lives in Clintonville, had the area as well. But the thing about talking about it, a warranty, and you're talking about sellers. Does everyone know we protect sellers 2 years post-sale? If I am as a buyer, go after your seller, warranty has to roll over to the buyer. But I've had in listing appointment, not me myself, but I've had agents tell me, because hey, we're going to talk to this person, we're going to talk to Remax, we're going to talk to whoever. If you list with me, I'm going to provide a complimentary home warranty, which is pretty generic, but it has list secure. So if the warranty rolls over to the buyer, I'm the buyer, I'm sue happy, and I sue Tony's seller, they have up to $1,000 worth of legal coverage. I've heard agents say, hey, if you list with me, I'll provide this. Do have some risk management. Our E&O, not our E&O, but E&O claims nationally have gone up significantly. We probably get 3-4 calls a week on a national level. With us, if the warranty is in the transaction, you get what we call client secure. If you talk about the warranty and you tell me about a warranty and I say, no, I don't want it, make sure the waiver is signed. Because should there be an E&O claim, we're still going to pay 75% of your deductible up to $3,750 just for talking. So and that's kind of one of the reasons, because the relationship we've had, not because our current owner from 2005 married a Keller Williams agent. And when he started, he went and tried to brand these and Keller Williams didn't like that. But now obviously we have it. And I'll give you an example. We don't hire a bunch of salespeople because I educate and train. I don't think you guys sell anything. I think you educate and guide, kind of like you were saying with the sellers or the buyer. You're not going to push me. Doesn't mean your commission calculator is not going off in your head. That makes sense. But you're not going to push me and say, this is the best kitchen island we've seen today, and you should get this home. It's just that added protection for you, for your seller. If you want to look at the stapled page, there's our limits and liabilities. Are we the highest? No. Are we the lowest? No, we're right in the middle. I think if you're brand new to either being in real estate or Keller Williams, if you just say home warranties are designed to offset cost or budget assist, that's going to protect you too. I hate to use this analogy, but when we found out my mom had cancer, she died a month and a half later. My dad had a $100,000 bill. Thank goodness he had an 80/20 plan, which he was never going to probably reach the deductible anyway. But thank goodness he had it. It's kind of like with cars too. And since I was a partner in an automotive software company, I'll let you know this. If you ever get an extended service contract, the dealership's doubling whatever so if it's $1,200, they're only paying $600. Just kind of some advice out there for that. But it's not insurance. Homeowners insurance, they obviously have to have a warranty. They don't, but it is. If 78% of the population lives paycheck to paycheck, and those numbers of 1 in 7 people don't have $1,000 for an emergency, that can help offset some cost. And you look like a hero in that aspect of protecting them. The agent I learned, and I got off track there, but in 20 years. So for me moving here, I don't know any contractors, but if I was buying a house, what she did is she puts a picture of herself, her contact info, a plumber, an HVAC, an appliance electrician. If I, as your buyer, have to go back and see your picture all the time, it reminds me. So that 9 out of 10, we're hoping that happens versus the 2 out of 10, according to NAR. So I would be like, do you know a plumber with that? So depending on how's new construction for you guys? I mean, are you guys doing a lot of new construction.
My numbers are down for years past, because people are so, they don't wanna wait. I don't know, that's.
That, and they don't know where the rate's gonna be when they lock it.
Exactly, so I feel like there's been less, but
And it's
that
kind of
gives me-
dried up. Because it's been-
Well, and obviously with costs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
that-
exactly.
and
2 years ago, it's right.
yeah, and I mean, with Intel coming, it's like, I don't know if it's gonna be like, is it, cause I wasn't living here then. Is Honda in Marysville?
yeah,
Where everyone had to live like 30 within 30 or 35 miles of it. I mean, there's 4,000 jobs coming, but obviously not 4,000 people.
They're all making 6 figures on that. too.
Right, right. Well, and I read on the BIA website by 2050, there should be another million people. I mean, I moved from a
Yeah,
state
I
that
saw that.
has, I cover 2/3 of Iowa. The whole state only has 3.1 million people. I moved to Franklin County. So, yeah, well, our senior VP had the territory. My boss had the territory. My kids are like, Dad, you'd be stupid if you don't. And we know that you want to, I mean, and I'll retire from here. But in 2050, when there's that many people, I'll be 77. I'm probably, hopefully won't, be talking about home warranties, but the biggest thing I think is just knowing that I'll answer my phone. I'll have texts. I don't bring my phone in typically. So if there's an issue, let me know. I have scripts that talk about how to talk about it in any market, let alone this market. Any questions that you guys have about?
for the
Us.
transfer, do you have to call in to have it transferred to the new buyer?
No, so let's say, do you guys typically put listing? I mean, because sellers are like, I can do anything I want because my neighbor said as is, so I don't have to do anything. But if I'm correct, the purchase agreement, I can get 20 offers today, but once I accept one, the buyer's perception is that dishwasher is going to work when they move in. So that's why I would put seller's coverage on with the seller's upgrade. If you order it as just a seller, and if it does get converted, you can either alert me or just,
But you do have to convert it to.
yeah, convert it to the buyer. And if I was an agent, I would do the $75 upgrade simply, and that's not due till closing. Just because it covers more plumbing, electric, appliance, cooling, and heating. Now, in a stable market, homes sell faster, 11 days faster, $2,300 more dollars. It kind of goes back to what you were saying. I want to move your home fast. I want to sell it for the most amount of money. Well, typically they do sell 11 days faster because in the MLS notes, if you just put home warranty provided, I ask a lot of agents because I'm not do what you guys do. I feel like a lot of sellers, is there a little bit of greediness?
A lot of it.
Right now? I mean, because to me, if I don't want to be called by the buyer or the buyer's lawyer, I'm just going to put warranty for either $425 or $685. To me, I always say put more comprehensive on because it allows us to be the warranty. Do the upgrade if the washer and dryer is staying, do that. But yeah, and it depends on, you can either convert it in Real Pro or just call it in or let me know. Just make it happen. Real Pro is the fastest and easiest way to order it because you get an invoice where you can send off to the title company, anything that you might need. But how big is your team? No,
Us to.
just you two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Asian license.
Okay. You're new. Anybody else somewhat new or?
I got my license around there. So yeah, then.
Okay.
You're looking at 3 different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know your team puts it pretty much on everything on Joe's team. So, and I'm not saying do that. I'm still saying what I would say, even though, and this is the way I do it. And I know if you're recording this, I'm not saying it, but because we have a business partnership agreement, I'm supposed to move and I'm allowed to move all those other warranties somewhere else. And I'm supposed to be displayed, but I don't do it that way. To me, if you present this and you present 210, the local one there, it takes pressure off of you guys and it doesn't say, hey, you told me to get this. let them take them home and read it. I mean, choose your own is good. And here's the thing, we started that in 99. Now there's other companies trying it. And so that's why I just talk about risk management, how to protect you, how to protect your sellers, and your buyers, literally by having a home warranty. So any questions, concerns?
What's your largest or what's the most demand item under warranty?
Today, probably air conditioner, but I always look at this. So standard warranty is either $425, $460, $100, $50 deductible. If I'm buying it as a gift, I would do the standard, because we send a letter to your buyer that says, here's some upgrade. And here's some options if you choose to buy. If it's a gift, I would do the standard. And if I was representing the seller, I'd mention the upgrade. I'd probably pay the $75, not due till closing. If it gets rolled out, we don't go back after your seller. What I always did in Des Moines is the 685 buyers premier was always ordered throughout everybody. And everyone knew if they were representing the seller, the buyer's agent's going to call and do that. Because to me, that just means, again, less calls for you as an agent that says, hey, now I have this Freon. I would at least try to do the upgrade of 140, not just for Freon, but now it starts covering racks and rollers in a dishwasher. Now it starts covering more in a refrigerator. I'll be 50 next month, and there's a sticker on a hot water heater that says drain it. Never drained one. But if I do it now, especially if you're representing a buyer and if you find out the seller never did it, tell them not to do it. Because if you do it now, there'll be a leak. It won't be pouring out, but it'll be just a constant leak for that. And to me, I would probably do at least the buyer's upgrade, buyer's premier. I mean, we have 2-year warranties. We have new construction. That's why I asked about it. Covers years 2, 3, and 4. And to let you know, if you didn't, anytime there's a manufacturer's warranty present, every home warranty will step out. If you get a call or an issue that says, hey, I try to still step outside the box because labor's not covered. So I will still try to assist any way I can. A lot of people will look at, depending on the age of the home or the age of I had a call on a 39-year-old air conditioner. And I joke because things aren't made like they used to. I mean, my parents had the avocado fridge, stove, dishwasher, the phone, that 40-foot cord that matched. The reason they got rid of it was because it was ugly, not because it didn't work. I have a friend who's an appliance contractor, but also sells appliances. The average washing machine and dishwasher are 6 years now. They don't build them like they used to. And when you take the average home last year, according to NAR, was 20 years old, what dishwasher, what number of dishwasher is now in that home? So is it at the end of we don't know, it was 5 years and now it only has a year left. So that's the I would go with the buyer's upgrade or buyer's premier. And I see a lot of agents calling me or hey, we closed 2 days ago. They realized what they got into. Hearing about a lot of home inspections being done after they've moved in to kind of find out what we bought. But I totally understand why the market is, why home inspections are down, home warranties are down, our claims are up, which happens furnace season and air conditioning season. And last couple of days, we've had quite a few
Well,
claims.
I came from the HVAC industry. I was running a company here locally, and it's funny to see though is that people will tolerate being cold.
Yep.
They lose their freaking minds being hot.
Yeah.
I mean, just lose their minds. What do you mean you can't be here in the next hour? What do you mean you can't? And then obviously with supply chain issues, all kinds of other things, and labor issues and all that, but it's they're always, I always think a home warranty is very important.
Well,
myself, so.
And here's the thing, for some reason in Iowa, American Home Shield started there and Home Warranty Inc. started there. When I worked at American Home Shield, before I got into partner of an automotive software company, when you choose the contractor, or there was a contractor relations, back then you had A and B contractors going out to work on claims. Home warranties have given a bad name to contractors. So if you're still back in that business and two people sitting on side by side yet have the same claim, one doesn't have a warranty and the other one does, you're probably going to the one where he can pay you right away. So I always say, if you have build relationships with contractors, let them know we can pay with a credit card right on the spot. If they still won't take a payment, we now have ACH, which we can send right to the homeowner immediately. When I worked at American Home Shield, we used to be able to buy hot water heaters, 30-gallon hot water heaters for $186, store them in a warehouse, upsold them to contractors. We were still making the claim decision. So if it wasn't something that's covered, now that plumber is raising the hot water heater again. So we've already made our money. I'm not bad mouthing American Shield. That's just anyone who has a contractor relations. They buy in bulk. So they'll advertise, hey, we put in a $5,000 furnace. You didn't. You probably got it for about $2,000 and then upsold it. With us, you can, if you don't want a nickel and dime a piece, because every home warranty is going to try to repair before it replaces. If I get it and I'm like, I just don't want to put more money into this for a repair, I can take that money and use it towards a replacement. If I want to train, great. Not bad mouthing Goodman. I had one for 20 some years. I can put a Goodman in. It just depends. Now, if we get a diagnosis and prognosis, I had a claim for a hot water heater that somebody wanted to, and they've used us, or homeowners have used them. They want to charge us homeowners $6,430 for a hot water heater. It was a 100-gallon hot water heater. It was under the stairs. They couldn't get it up. So to bring in another 100-gallon or a tankless, this is how they came up with that number. So the Keller Williams agent calls me. I said, I can't tell them what to do. I get a second opinion. Second opinion comes out, finds out it's not even a hot water heater. It's leaking. It was a drip pan from the furnace. They were kind of right by each other. So I said, did they call that in? No, they were just thankful that you and I talked and we recommended. I said, call it in. I mean, make a claim. I mean, it's covered. We'll take care of it. So that's the thing with choosing your own. You get to choose what you get put in there too. So any other questions? Perfect. I'm just, like I said, obviously I get paid on warranties, but I don't care. I mean, they come if I do my job and educate and train. And knowing in this market, kind of like you said, it's you still talk to them about it, you still recommend it, still their decision, in all aspects. And I think buyers right now are scared to even ask for anything. But I'd still see some sellers, and that's why I asked about sellers, because to me, if I'm getting 30 grand over, I'd buy a warranty just so I don't get called again.
I wish you were like every. Well, they would say, "Why would I spend $800?" And I'd be like, "Well, because you have a brand and you're nice." You know what I mean? Like, it's like this and that expense. It's like you're 45 over.
Yeah,
What are we worried about?
I mean, the funny thing is, you'd buy it if they were back 2 years ago, or even right before COVID started. You would have bought one for the buyer to help move your home, and you're getting asking. And now, and I'm not the bad mouthing sellers, but I mean, if I was to buy a home, I can't have ours, but just because I don't want, Brian calling it a claim, type of thing. But to me, it's if you don't want to be, with litigation as high as it is, you don't want to be called by the buyer's lawyer. And with that waiver signed, we've had this because we're headquartered in Jackson, Michigan. We've had lawyers reach out to the brokers to say, you didn't talk to my client, our mutual client, about a home warranty. Make sure they sign that waiver, because when that waiver was shown to the lawyer said, ignore the letter you're getting in 2 to 3 days. That's his signature. He chose not to get a warrant. It just protects you. Obviously, we hope you don't have any, claim by any means, but if my perception is you didn't do it, then you didn't. So,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
And I don't know what Jennifer got, because originally thought I was coming in at 10. So she called me and goes, I didn't call you yesterday. So I said, grab lunch and give me the receipt. So,
Whoever's out there.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that real quick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. We will take a break and Christina will be back.